Shout out to Bring Our Q, Julius, you legend. We're going to do a joint interview, yeah? Yeah, we'll do a joint interview, Julius. Thanks for the support. You're a legend. From your girls, Raven and Ellie.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. This weekend on the undercard of Jordan Gill versus Zelfa Barrett, we're going to be seeing one of my personal favorites, Ellie Scotney, take on unbeaten two-time WBO super bantamweight champion Sigaline Lefebvre of La France. What heralds a push, a move from the people over there at Matchroom to bring consolidation to what has otherwise been a divided division. I can't remember the last time there was a unified champion at 122 pounds. But this weekend, one will be crowned, and they're not stopping there. The extent of their interest at 122 is not limited to young Ellie Scotney, who sports a professional record of 8 wins with no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, not yet. Ellie's not known for power. She's not a knockout merchant, but what she is adaptable. That's her strength. That she's a malleable fighter that can make adjustments in a variety of situations against a variety of opponents to not only secure the win, but do it in style and make it look easy. Some of these girls that Ellie has already fought and beat, they've been a handful for other fighters. Very difficult and more experienced than she is, but when she fights them and beats them, she makes it look easy, where other fighters struggle. She's going to be fighting Sigaline Lefebvre, who sports a professional record of 18 wins with no losses, no draws, 1 recorded knockout, and 10 more professional bouts than young Ellie. Sigaline is in many ways a more experienced professional than Ellie Scotney. She's got 10 more bouts. She's been around longer. She's been a champion more times than Ellie. Sigaline is a 2-time WBO champion, but I believe what sets them apart is Ellie's ceiling. I believe Ellie has a higher ceiling. She is a more talented fighter than Sigaline Lefebvre, but not just more talented, more technically sound. The difference between them is a difference of inches, but it's a lot of inches in a lot of smaller areas that make a big difference. That's it. Sigaline Lefebvre saw action 2 times last year, once in April, then again in November. So in that way, she has been active in the last 12 months, and she doesn't have any ring rust to shake off.
Neither does Ellie.
Ellie Scotney saw action 2 times last year, once in June, then again in September. As stated, what this weekend's fight heralds is a push from Matchroom to bring consolidation and perhaps an undisputed champion to the super bantamweight division, because their extent of interest in this weight class is not limited to Ellie Scotney. There is also their other champion, their Mexican champion, Erica Cruz, who's going to be in action very soon opposite the ring, her mandatory challenger, Nazarena Romero of Argentina.
Don't forget about Ramla Ali.
I heard a rumor 2 weeks ago that when it comes to Ramla, they tried to get Ramla a title shot with the only other champion at this weight, Yamileth Mercado, who holds the WBC title. Yamileth Mercado of Mexico, who she shares a common opponent with in Guzman.
They both fought Julissa Guzman. They both beat Julissa Guzman.
Admittedly, it took Ramla Ali a little bit more work to do it. She got knocked out in the first fight, but won a points decision in the second. And on that premise, they believed she's ready for Yami Mercado, but Yami didn't like the money. Offer after offer, and Yami Mercado would not bite. She would not defend her title against Ramla.
That's the rumor.
What's not a rumor is that before we got here, before Erica Cruz signed on to defend her title against her mandatory challenger, she too was pursuing a fight with Yami Mercado, but once again, Yami wouldn't bite. The way I see it, between this weekend's fight between Ellie and Sigaline and Eric Cruz's upcoming fight with Nazarena Romero, as well as the presence of Ramla Ali in this division,
the biggest money for a super bantamweight is at Matchroom.
Yami Mercado can only hold out but for so long
before people start to notice,
and before it starts to look like she's avoiding unification matches. She's avoiding the other champions at this weight. Between Matchroom's interest in Ali versus Mercado or Cruz versus Mercado,
she can only hold out for so long.
Unification matches and crowning an undisputed champion at this weight is the move. And that's what this weekend's fight heralds between Ellie Scotney and Sigaline Lefebvre.
That's what it's all about.
As far as Scotney versus Lefebvre, I'm going with Ellie Scotney to win a points decision, and I'm going with Ellie to win a points decision because I feel that her technique is a lot better than Siegelin's, in spite of Siegelin being a capable fighter.
Mid-range, the inside, I don't think she's as capable as Ellie. Ellie's punches are shorter, tighter, and more defensible.
In the pocket. And in the pocket is where I think Ellie Scotney wins this fight. Going to the head, going to the body, you will notice that Siegelin Lefebvre, she's more long and limber than Ellie Scotney, has a longer torso.
Bigger target.
I think Ellie Scotney's going to get inside on Siegelin Lefebvre, get inside of those long arms, those long levers, put punches together, and beat her there within close quarters.
On her toes, in and out.
She's a bit more athletic than Siegelin, faster on her feet with faster hands, is a sharper puncher that throws shorter punches that are more defensible. And that's how I think she beats Siegelin round after round.
She took the IBF title from Sharnika Johnson. I think she's going to take the WBO title from Siegelin. Scotney on points is the pick.
Like, we could marinate that fight, for it to become something big. But for me, I'm knocking him out. Like, I'm knocking him the fuck out. That kid, I'm knocking him out for a fact. I swear to God, like, I'm knocking him the fuck out. Like, I'm knocking him out. I'm putting him out. And, like I said, like, he could talk all that shit on, this, that. Like, he fought his last fight. The dude he fought, I tore my bicep in the third round. You know what I'm saying? And that dude was beating his ass the whole fight until he just stopped. And that dude quit, you know what I'm saying, in the 9th or 10th round or something like that, or the 9th round. But, I'm knocking that kid out. He be talking mad shit. I think he's an all right fighter. I don't think he's nothing special. I think he's basic. I just feel like, that fight got to marinate. I feel like he's not a business kid. Like, he'll take a fight for $50,000. Like, that's the type of fight, like, guy he is. He don't know boxing. Like, you got to marinate a fight between me and him. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do it the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like, this boxing stuff ain't.
Diego Pacheco caught wind of Edgar Berlanga's comments saying, "See me next. You're easy work. I'm not with this back and forth Twitter shit. Eddie Hearn, I've been wanting this fight. Let's make it happen next, anywhere, whenever." You see, when Diego Pacheco says he wants the fight, I believe him a lot more than Edgar because Edgar's cosplaying a business guy. One of these fighters that's trying to model his own career after the career of Floyd Mayweather, not having the talent and ability of a Floyd Mayweather. The part they leave out is that Floyd paid his dues.
Yeah.
He made his bones long before he became Money Mayweather.
Yeah.
Ticked off on several boxes and had several year marks
Yeah.
as a champion and an elite fighter before he took on the guise of Money Mayweather. The kind of year marks and boxes that Edgar hasn't ticked off on yet. It's far too soon to take a stance like this.
Don't believe the hype. It ain't got nothing to do with the business or the business of boxing. It has to do with his lack of ability.
If you believed you could beat Diego Pacheco, like you believed you could beat Jason Quigley and Padraig McCrory, then you'd be fighting Diego just as easily as you fought them. If you don't, it's because of the risks associated with the fight, and we all know it. Too often in the American boxing scene, fights like this get held up by the whole boxing is a business, the business of boxing crap. Hey, listen,
Look.
when Fabio Wortley fought David Adelaide, that was business. When he moved on from that and fought Frazier Clark, that was business, and it did good business, brought good viewing figures to the platform.
He fought two unbeaten fighters like himself back to back, and he didn't have to do that. He could have held out like you're holding out on fighting Diego.
Fabio Wortley is a guy with next to no amateur experience and just a few white-collar fights before going pro. And that didn't stop him from grabbing the bull by the horns, biting down on his gum shield, and rolling the dice. And you know why?
Why?
Because he believed in himself. Now, he's in a position to make even more money than he's been making for having done as well as he did. And there are more fighters like Fabio in the UK than there are in America because too many of the fighters in America are cosplaying business guys to disguise their lack of ability and apprehensiveness.
Don't give me the business of boxing crap.
Because you'll do better business fighting this guy than fighting some other guy, fighting some no-hoper. And it's better for business if you beat this guy sooner than later because that would raise your profile. That's business.
The problem,
You don't know if you can beat this guy.
he thinks he can beat you.
He's willing to roll the dice. You're not. And it can't be because of how confident you are you knock him out right now.
If you're that confident, take him on.
Take him out. You receive an instant profile boost. as soon as you do. The problem is, you probably don't take him out. You know, you probably don't beat him. He took the first opportunity to lay into Diego Pacheco for that lackluster showing this past weekend when he's had 4 lackluster showings. It had been a long while since Edgar Berlanga looked good.
A missed opportunity.
To exhibit the power of silence, the power of saying nothing and doing nothing, that just because you can react doesn't mean you should, and doesn't make that the best course of action. That while Diego Pacheco may have said this and that about Edgar, Edgar would have had a stronger showing by saying nothing at all.
What needs to be said?
You go on social media to tell people this guy's garbage and this guy's trash, just to follow up by saying we need to wait, we need to marinate the fight, marinate a fight with a guy who you say is garbage.
What the fuck?
For that, you might as well have said nothing at all if we're gonna end up waiting anyway.
Now you just look scared.
Maybe you are, or maybe you're not. Maybe you do knock him out. If I'm wrong about Edgar, I welcome him to prove me wrong.
Do it.
I'm a spectator, and what is a spectator sport? And that's what we're here to do. We're here to spectate. We're here to see the fights. But if this is the stance you're gonna take every time you have to face a halfway decent fighter, you're never gonna be a star, because people aren't interested in seeing you play it safe and take it easy. What does that do for your marquee value, since this is a business?
Well, you're a business guy.
Why don't you go fight 10 more Jason Quigleys and see what that does for business?
I'm gonna turn the corner real quick. I'm about to turn the corner because I gotta make something be known right now, man.
Right, Jim.
Like we talking about Benavidez and we want to see Benavidez face Canelo, and now we're talking about Munguia and so on and so forth. Like we're talking about like Benavidez, like he's some gangster, like you know what I mean? Like he's supposed to dominate Canelo and so on and so forth. I don't think so. I don't think so. And Benavidez, didn't he walk away from an opportunity to face against Morrell, David Morrell in the division? If he's that damn bad, he would have took that fight with Morrell. But the reason why he would have.
But it's still on Canelo though, because Canelo locked James the whole weight class. Everybody's waiting for a shot at Canelo.
No, it's not Canelo Alvarez's fault that David Benavidez is being extra careful and circumventing a David Morrell fight. That's not Canelo's fault.
So that's the problem. Now nobody wants to fight each other. That's the log jam you create when you do that, when you're the money guy.
No, that's the logjam that's created when a fighter and his team don't really believe in his abilities, so they walk around like they're stepping on eggshells.
Extra cautious, extra careful.
And so now, back to Munguia real quick. I just had to throw that out there. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. It's a great point.
Yeah,
he should have. That's created because of Canelo.
Paulie Malignaggi is trying very hard to keep the focus on Canelo and make it Canelo Alvarez's fault that David Benavidez and David Morrell have not fought.
Which is bullshit.
His explanation is that because Canelo is the money guy at the weight, it's creating a logjam to where the fighters don't want to fight each other. But David Morrell wants to fight David Benavidez. It's David Benavidez that doesn't want to fight him.
David Morrell never said, I don't want to fight David Benavidez yet because I'm waiting for Canelo.
Christian Mabili never said, I don't want to fight David Benavidez because I'm waiting for Canelo. In fact, he says he wants to fight Benavidez and Canelo because it's not an either-or situation.
You can fight one while you wait for the other.
The reason Paulie Malignaggi presents it as such, as an either-or situation, is because it allows him to maintain this narrative that everything is Canelo Alvarez's fault, when, need I remind you, Floyd Mayweather was a huge cash cow in his time, huge, and that didn't stop Timothy Bradley from fighting Ruslan Provodnikov or Juan Manuel Marquez.
He fought him.
He wasn't waiting around for Floyd. Erislandy Lara wasn't waiting around for Floyd. He fought Paul Williams.
He fought Canelo.
And Canelo fought Trout, then unbeaten Austin Trout. You see, in spite of the presence of a huge cash cow at or around a weight, fights were still happening. The fighters, they weren't just all sitting around waiting for Floyd.
Maybe it's because they believed in themselves.
Where David Benavidez's team is not so confident, not so sure, that we should treat a fight with a guy who's only got 10 pro bouts like it's this existential crisis.
Well, calling him a monster.
Can't be that big a monster. He's stepping on eggshells to fight a guy who's only got 10 or 11 fights.
Give me a break.
It's not Canelo Alvarez's fault that David Benavidez doesn't want to fight David Morrell. What it really is that David Benavidez doesn't want to roll the dice. He doesn't want to chance it, doesn't want to risk it. But you tell me, why should it be that big a risk to fight a guy who's only got 10 or 11 fights?
Because he's not really a monster. You're just blowing smoke up people's asses and using him to shade Canelo.
Paulie Malignaggi comes from the same era of fighters, in the same era where we had to wait 5 years for Mayweather versus Pacquiao.
Kissing Floyd's ass the whole time.
We had to wait 5 years for that fucking thing, and you're telling me you can't wait until September without being a fucking crybaby?
5 years for Mayweather versus Pacquiao. Another 5 years for Spence versus Crawford.
4 years for Benavidez versus Plant. That's how long we had to wait, but you can't wait till September to see if Canelo don't fight this fucking guy.
Without peeing and shitting yourself and throwing your toys out of the pram.
Hi, Paul.
Imagine Muhammad Ali did that. Imagine Muhammad Ali acted like Canelo. Can you imagine Muhammad Ali would have acted like Canelo? Muhammad Ali fought everybody in their prime.
You know who didn't? Floyd Mayweather. And as I recall, you were one of Floyd Mayweather's biggest cock jockeys. That didn't stop you from liking him. The fact that, a lot of the fighters that he fought, they weren't in their prime.
That was one of the biggest criticisms levied against Floyd.
In his time, that he was very selective about when he fought fighters because he didn't fight those fighters when they were in their prime. That didn't stop Paulie from tagging along with him.
And that's why boxing became so big the generation after him. In the 80s, because of Muhammad Ali's greatness, in the 80s, boxing was all over network TV with major, major ratings. Why? Because the previous generation, Ali did what Ali did.
While that's true, there are very few careers that you could compare to Muhammad Ali's, or very few resumes that you could hold up next to Muhammad Ali's.
The thing is, nobody compares Canelo to Muhammad Ali.
In fact, most boxers, even very, very good ones, don't get compared to Ali. You're the only one doing that.
You know what I'm saying? And not he didn't win every fight. He got beat sometimes, but he took on every tough opponent.
Yo, Paulie, how many tough opponents has David Benavidez fought? Because you really like him.
You like him more than you like Canelo, but who's fought tougher opponents? Him or Canelo?
Huh?
Who's fought tougher guys?
The biggest risk he can find in their prime, sometimes not even his prime, in their primes, like with George Foreman. You know what I mean? And sometimes he got beat, the Ken Norton fights and whatnot, and he'd come back and he did it. But the way he did it is the way a champion does it. He was not bigger than the sport.
Canelo never said he was bigger than the sport. What you're doing is making a run-of-the-mill mandatory bigger than what he is.
You cannot say all these things about Canelo Alvarez, have this kind of energy, and turn a blind eye to David, who was at that weight before Canelo.
Okay, he was, and he didn't act that way. And later on, everybody thanks him. Everybody looks at him as the greatest of all time for multiple reasons. You have a responsibility when you're on that level. It's not just you're on that level and you take advantage of it.
Oh, no? Floyd did, and he was open about it. He said he was robbing the bank. And while he was doing that, you were egging him on, celebrating him, happy to be in his presence, to smell his cologne.
But now you want to get on your soapbox? Now you want to sermonize?
So we can go with the route of individual sports.
Let's just cut the fucking crap, all right? You brought up Ali because you know that's the gold standard, and you thought that would be a trump card, that Canelo can't compare himself to Ali, except Canelo doesn't compare himself to Ali. He doesn't even compare himself to the legends of old in Mexico, Mexican champions. You're making that tenuous association so that you could have something bad to say about him when you can't compare David Benavidez.
You can't compare him to Ali either if we're going to play that game. You can't compare most of today's fighters or yesterday's.
You thought you were saying something with that.
Hey, Paulie, you can't compare David to Ali either, but that don't stop you from polishing his doorknob, if you know what I'm saying.
Know what I'm saying? This forgiving energy that Paulie has for David Benavidez not fighting David Morrell is not the forgiving energy he has for Canelo having not fought David.
David Benavidez.
Is somebody paying you to talk him up on your platform? Because that's how it feels.
You could spit in the wind in boxing and hit a hypocrite, and I think I just hit one.